So, am I online? Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, so welcome to Understanding of Planet series. And today we are going to be understanding the planet Mars. Mars in astrology, which is also known as Mangal, Mangala, Kuja. There's actually about 108 names under Mars Stotram. It's I remember it was a South Indian CD that I used to listen to about with all the stotrams, and they would have all the names. But these are the three names that Mars is really known for. Okay. So now we're gonna try to understand the significance of Mars, like the Kark Avasthas of Mars. What does Mars represents? Especially in the Vedic astrological side. So Mars, as you know, and also remember, what is the name of the Mars? The red planet. Okay. So naturally, we see that Mars is a very reddish planet. So everything which is red is represented by Mars. The red color and blood, okay, is represented by Mars. So if, let's say, for example, you've got Mars influencing your fourth house, or the sign of Mars is upon your fourth house, or you're going through Mars Dasha, most likely you'll probably purchase a vehicle that is going to be a red color. Or you are going to paint one of the walls red during operational period of Mars. Usually people with strong Mars on the third house, influence upon the third house, may get a red cell phone. So their cell phone will be red. Now, the very first thing that Mars is known for is fire. Mars is fire. Mars is a hot and heated planet like the sun. So sun actually represents fire, but Mars actually represents the violence of fire. Like if somebody's house burns down, or the forests are burning. The actual act of burning is Mars. Mars is like taking its anger, because Mars is anger. So Mars is pushing its anger as much as it can. It's unleashing the anger. So firemen are seen through Mars. And the reason why we see firemen, because they are the men with courage, men with strength. They're the people who go out in any situation, no matter how much heat there is, how much carbon dioxide there is, they're willing to go in and save your life. So Mars represents a firefighter. Mars represents a soldier, policeman, athlete, somebody who's not afraid to take on challenges. And the reason being because Mars is a significator of the sixth house, which is of enemies, competition, challenges, obstacles. So a person who's greatly influenced by Mars, they do not like life to be smooth. They do not like life to be smooth. They want to see challenges. They want to see competition. They want to see the arch enemy. And this is why Mars represents enemies. Because there's always good or bad side to Mars. The good side is a soldier, protector, samurai. Then, Mars represents war, fights. And Mars represents weapons of all kinds, whether it's guns, swords, knives, spear, needles. Mars represents any kind of a technical tool that you work with, whether it's a hammer or a chisel. That's Mars. So Mars represents a very technical person, engineer, technician, blacksmith. Somebody who can fix things for you. Somebody who has a very technical hands, like a handyman. Even a plumber is Mars, because they have to have technical skills. Although plumber is really seen through Saturn, and we'll discuss this with Saturn, why it's represented by Saturn mainly. Then Mars also represents Because it's the significator of the third house, naturally represents brothers and siblings in general. It represents male counterparts, male friends, male acquaintances. Any kind of like a male figure that comes in your life is going to be Mars. Mars also represents being in a technical field, a construction worker as well. So people who build things, people who are working on the road, they are also Mars energy. It's kind of like a construction worker is a combination of Mars and Saturn, which I will discuss in the Saturn part. Mars represents any kind of a work where you have to wear a uniform. That is, a soldier and a policeman, a firefighter. They all have a specific uniform that they wear. So, like in India, at least I know of India and England, where you go to school and you have to wear a uniform. Well, that is controlled by Mars. So that school which says that you have to wear one uniform, everyone, that's a very Mars controlled place. That is a place where it's filled with competition. You gotta strive. You gotta go out there and show that you can get that A and that win those sports competition in your school. Then Mars, obviously, because it represents sharp objects, it can also represent not only a policeman, but it can also represent a surgeon. So a person who, opens you up, fixes you, is Mars. And Mars is a karka of land, real estate. But Mars represents the real estate or land that you're going to acquire. The one that you have already acquired, that you have, is Ketu. Because remember, Mars is the charging army. Mars is like, oh, I want to buy a house. I want to get that land. I want to buy that piece of land. That's the action of Mars. But if let's say since you were born, that land that your father had put it in your name the moment you were born. Well, that's Ketu then. That is a conquered army. You've already conquered it. Whatever is conquered, whatever is there, that's Ketu. So that's the difference. Mars, obviously, whenever you go into a competition, Mars wants to win. So winning, victory, defeating the enemy, the action of defeat is known as Mars. So if you want to know, will I win or lose in a competition, Mars has to be seen more than anything else. Mars also, on a more softer side, represents passion and lust. This has a positive and negative side. Positive side is Mars can show great passion and sexual energy within a relationship or even in a one night stand. But on the aggression side, it can represent somebody who can rape somebody. The lust is too much, the fire is too much. So Mars can go opposite direction. It can represent a robber, rapist, thief. It can represent a police, soldier, fighter. And this is why, this is something that I was actually looking into. Like most UFC fighters that I try to look for their horoscopes, it really shows like if they weren't UFC fighters, they could have been charged with murder. They could have been charged with some violent crime, and they could have been in jail. And this is the thin line that Mars walks on, in certain fields, especially when it's a boxer, fighter, athlete, even a wrestler. I mean, these guys, they strive on just violence. They want to be punched. They like to punch. So if they're not exerting their energy in this professional form, well, if they're not doing that, then in their private life they will look for opportunities where they can exert that energy, that aradhra or that mula energy within them. And so Mars is a very fine line. A surgeon, a good surgeon can fix you. A very crazy surgeon may usually like to, he can actually like manipulate things just to see the person die. And I'm sure there's been surgeons out there that have killed people just for their own enjoyment, and that's where the mental part has to be very important. So Moon and Mercury have to be very, very well placed when we're dealing with Mars. when you're looking at Mars energy, whether this person's a good guy, bad guy, Moon and Mercury, their influence is seen. Is the mind going in this direction, that direction? So if the mind is in this direction, then the energy of Mars will also shift in this direction. Because let's say somebody's crazy, somebody's insane, you give them a knife. Mars is not going to say, oh, well, I'm nicely placed, I'm exalted, so I'm going to actually stab another bad person. No, I am crazy, I'm insane. You gave me sharp objects, I have no idea what to do with it. Okay, fine, I'll just stab this person next to me who have no idea. I have no idea who they are. So Mars is just action, but the controlling of that action comes from the mind. What is the mind? Um, when it comes to the bad side of it, it definitely represents violence, murder, being impulsive, reckless. It all obviously represents accidents or intentional accidents, meaning intentional harm. Mars also represents hunting. Now that too has two sides to it. Hunting can be for survival. Like if let's say you live in Alaska, you live in Siberia, you've got to hunt to survive. If you don't eat that red meat, you are pretty much signing your own death sentence there. Fruits and vegetables will not do nothing. But if you just go on hunting just because as a sport, well then now you're using the other side of Mars. Mars, this is why it represents slaughterhouses and a butcher. So in a slaughterhouse, that's more of a negative thing because you're holding some animal against its will and killing it. Okay? But a butcher, let's say in the mountains, somewhere where there's hardly any grocery stores and foods and vegetation, and you're in such a cold weather that you need to do that, then a butcher becomes a great person. So a red meat is, and especially red meat is seen through Mars. Because obviously, like I said, red is Mars. So red meat is seen through Mars. So people who have very strong Mars, they will always go towards wanting to eat red meat. Meat in general is Mars. Then Mars, in terms of places, obviously represents army barracks. Wherever there's place where they're holding all the soldiers, like after war places to go, that's Mars. Mars is police station. Mars is a butcher shop. Mars is arena for sports, like Coliseum or whatever sports arena. There's like hundreds and thousands of them now. Boxing ring, wrestling ring, octagon. Where there's fighting that's going to happen. Battlefield, that is Mars. Obviously, any kind of a piece of land that you're going to be acquiring, that is Mars. And metal-wise, Mars actually also represents copper, along with Sun. And body part-wise, Mars is obviously muscles. Mars is head. Mars is brain. Mars is gallbladder. Mars represents chest. Mars is blood. Now, there's a controversial side to some of the body parts where one scholar has said this, one scholar has said that, so I'm not even going to bring those up. Those just have to be tested, and when I've tried to see it in a very limited manner, some were working, some not, so I don't even want to mention those. So this is what Mars represents in a general order. So whenever you are, let's say anytime Mars operates in your life, whether it's Mars Mahadasha, Antradasha, Parentradasha, Mars is transiting your ascendant, especially, you will tend to experience some of these things of Mars. And like I said, a bad Mars, okay, let me tell you something. The bad and good Mars doesn't really exist. Whether you have a debilitated Mars or exalted Mars. The quality of Mars, so let's say, like I told you about the crazy thing, the crazy person who will stab any innocent person next to them, or a sane person who will only use the knife if somebody attacks them. That's really seen through the mind. So when you judge Mars, how this person's Mars is, well, first look at the mind. Is the mind in okay place? Can they lose their mind? Is this person bipolar? Is this person schizophrenic? Do they have, some intelligence? Then look at Mars. So it's like whenever you're looking at some chart and, like there's combinations where Saturn is in the ascendant, Jupiter is in the seventh house, Mars is in the fifth house, can show somebody who's mentally challenged and ill. Okay, but in that you have to look at Moon. Because even in that combination, if Moon is sane, a person is not going to display so much of that eccentric mental debilitation in their life. They say when Saturn is in the 12th house, with Jupiter being in the third house and Mars being in seventh or fifth house, that also is kind of like a combination. There's like 5-10 different combinations to see somebody who has some mental issues. And so Mars, the reason why it's really seen as a cause of that mental issues because it represents aggression. But there's many people with these combinations, but if Moon is there, Moon is there, Moon is here, well, they are holding that aggression in. They may lash out time to time, but it's not 24/7. But some people just have it activated from birth, 24/7, because the mind is affected, the nervous system is also affected. So more than even Mercury, Moon has to be seen for Mars' well-being. Because even a debilitated Mars, okay, see, here's the thing about debilitated Mars. Debilitated Mars will work 10 times as hard as an exalted Mars. That's the only difference. Like, for example, Michael Jordan has debilitated Mars in his chart. The guy took practices, the Chicago Bull practices, as an actual NBA playoff game. His teammates couldn't understand, like, this guy's insane. He's homicidally competitive. Why? Because he's like, my courage is so much on the rocks. I have to keep going because I cannot have my enemy defeat me. Exalted Mars will be like, okay, I'm gonna practice from 10 to 12 the way practice is. I'm gonna get ready, and then when game comes, I'm gonna play the game, and I'm gonna show the utmost bravery. But I know I'm brave. I know I'm confident that I can defeat them. I don't really need to show my strength as much at this moment. But a debilitated Mars will be like, okay, no. They're always panicked. They're always in a panic mode. Like, if I do not work hard, if I don't attack something, something's going to attack me. So it actually shows much more of a hard work. Okay, and like I was also saying about the video, I think it was in 2015 October. I don't know if you can go back on my channel, 2015 October or September. I remember when Mars or Jupiter was changing signs. I said how Jupiter and Mars are the only two planets that are exalted in two places. They're debilitated in a place, in one place, but they're exalted in two places. For Mars, okay, it is Capricorn and Leo. For Jupiter, it is Cancer and Leo. Because Mars represents a person who serves the kingship. So Leo represents the regal royal place. It's a royal palace. It's a throne of the king. So soldier is being put on as the king, like a dictator. So a soldier, a fighter, is being treated with royalty. And then same thing with Jupiter. Jupiter is a scholar. A preacher. A preacher is being treated royally inside the royal palace. They're being literally treated like the king. So this is why these are the two placements where they actually become very much exalted. And also, Mars represents, remember when I was talking about fire, I completely forgot. Mars represents the fire of the marriage ritual. Mandap. You know the mandap in the Hindu marriage ceremony? That is Mars. Because you are being bound, earthly bound. See, we have our astral relationship with our Pitris, with the supreme energy, gods. Then on this earth, we have our earthly relationships. And one of the earthly relationship is the bondage between the two people. And this is why they have Mangal Sutra, which is saying that you are now bounded with this earthly relationship for a certain time. whether it's 1 year, 5 years, or 50 years. Okay? So hopefully this has given you guys a great idea about what Mars, Kuja, Mangal, the red planet is. So I don't know if you guys have anything else that I might be missing to discuss about Mars. Yes, remember the Manglic thing about the Mars, which is in the 12th, 1st, 2nd, 4th, 7th, and 8th house. Second is definitely seen. It is part of that Manglic thing because it is fire, aggression, okay? It is to dominate and control. And Mars is what? Passion and lust. All these things are given in. So remember about Mars aspect. The fourth aspect of Mars is about conquering something. Seventh aspect of Mars is lusting towards something. Eighth aspect of Mars is killing something and transforming it, ending it. So this is why especially the fourth and eighth aspect of Mars is seen that how much is this person going to control? Like wherever Mars fourth aspect is in your chart, you're going to control those things. This is why Mars in the seventh house always controls their employees. They become the boss. Mars in the 10th house, nobody controls this person except themselves. Why? Because the fourth aspect of Mars is on the ascendant. And Mars in the 10th house can make a very harsh parent because the 8th aspect of Mars goes to the 5th house. One will hit their children to teach them things. Because remember, it's like exerting violence, that 8th house things, those sudden violent things is the 8th house. So that's what Mars is. Combust Mars. First of all, you gotta understand the theory of combustion. Combustion doesn't mean that the planet completely gets killed, otherwise you won't be alive. If Mars really was combust in a horoscope, you wouldn't be able to lift your arm. Why? Because your entire strength is gone. No, combustion simply means the aggression of the planet becomes very heated. There's irritation with that planet. But however, Mars is already a heated, hot planet. So you're getting fire next to fire. It's going to create more fire. But Mars is not so irritated with Sun. Mars, Mercury are two planets that are not really irritated with the Sun. Because Mercury is so close to the Sun anyway that it's been used to it since it was born. It's like, oh yeah, I'm used to this heat. People who live near equator, they're used to that heat. We go there, we're going to be like, I won't be able to survive like one day. Back in India, I was used to that heat. Same thing with Mars. Mars is like, I'm fire, I'm hot. So I'm next to the sun. Okay, whatever. I'm just becoming more aggressive. But the thing is, one gets irritated a lot. When you annoy somebody, when you try to challenge them, they'll get irritated. That's what it is. So if let's say you have a Manglic Josha in your own chart with Sun and Mars together, you're just going to be a very aggressive person. You would just lose your cool from time to time, but it's nothing more than that. Okay. But also combustion. The one thing you have to know about combustion is the health. Whatever the planet represents as a body part, those things would be irritated more. So there's like so much pitta with Sun and Mars together. So for these people, too much of consumption of meat will not be good. Too much of consumption of any food that represents heat, because you have so much heat, you're adding more heat to it. So it's not good. So whatever that represents, because I'm not an expert in Ayurveda. So that's, yes, very good. Spiritual aspect. Spiritual aspect of Mars is this is something I should have mentioned. Mars is discipline. See, soldier wakes up at 4 a.m. in the morning. They go to bed at the exact same time. They keep their shoes clean. They keep their guns clean. They know when to clean the gun. They are always organized in that manner. So when you're trying to go for your spiritual practices, a strong Mars is needed. A balanced Mars is needed. Why? Because you need to be able to be disciplined. You need to show that you are waking up every morning and you're doing meditation. So this is why exalted Mars is very good. More than any other planet. Okay? Because when Mars is debilitated, you're going to be irritated like, oh no, I have to meditate. I have to do my yoga. If I don't do yoga, I won't find enlightenment and moksha. You're in that agitated state where exalted Mars is more calm. Like, no, I know. I don't need an alarm clock. Naturally, I'll wake up at 6 or 4:30. And I will do my meditations, and then I will do my exercise, then I will do something else. So that is the spiritual aspect of Mars. It really shows the discipline to do things right. So also, yes, Mars connection with the fifth house. Whether if it's a male's chart, it'll show that your spouse, or if both in man and woman, Mars influence on the fifth house can show C-section birth. It shows that a sharp object might be needed, or especially, let's say during Prashna, Mars is affecting the fifth house through some aspect, then shows that a C-section would be done at that moment when you're having contraction. So that's one of the influences we see upon the fifth house. So anyway, guys, this was my analysis of Mars and its significance. If you're new to my channel, subscribe below if you want to know where your Mars is placed. All your astrological details, my books for post-consultation, go in the description in astrologycares.com. Otherwise, we're going to see you with our nakshatra video, probably tonight or tomorrow. Okay? See you later. Bye-bye.